The Ultimatum at times calls itself a social experiment, but I think we all know the only experimenting here is how far we can push people and still find it entertaining. And to that end, I think season 2 has given us something really interesting to talk about, and that is the clear villain that they've put into the storyline of this season.
See, like, I don't believe that, though.
No wonder you fucking hate me. You've been trying to hate me, so you feel better about your fucking self.
And I know would have never done what you did. Give us a little bit of fucking trust, or like benefit of the doubt, goddamn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give us something.
Is that what you're doing with Magan right now, giving her the benefit of the doubt?
I mean, and you had an emotional connection with Mel too.
But it was not sexual like you.
You want to come already?
It was a test and you failed. It's just different.
I know that a lot of people felt as angry as I did when they watched this show because I've read the Reddit comments. And in season 2, there's one particular couple that people have a great issue with, and that is the coupling of Magan and Dayna, and the sort of transformation that we watch, particularly Magan's character, go through as she spends 3 weeks with someone else. She seems to sort of come to life. She seems very different than she is with her original partner. And then when she spends the next 3 weeks with her original partner, Dayna, we get the impression that she has been sucked back down into some quagmire of what really feels like an emotionally coercive relationship. And I'm really interested in the feelings that I had in watching this and the vindication that I felt reading people's rage about this and talking to my own partner about it. And then the way that my feelings have evolved, the longer I thought about it. Because if you're anything like me, you watched season 1 as well. And when you watched season 1, you felt a similar way towards a different but ultimately similar woman.
I'm gonna get a drink or 5, and then I'm gonna date everyone that I can. I'm gonna date you and you and you and you and everyone I can, get my hands on. Hi. Hi. Welcome to our date. Hi.
Ooh,
You smell so good.
Oh, thank you.
What do
You
you
look
smell
so good.
Oh, thank you.
And her name was Vanessa. And since the show, Vanessa has talked a lot about how she was portrayed as the villain and how footage of her was manipulated to make her seem very different, or even at times to make it seem like she was making really different choices than she actually did in the moment. And when I sat back and I thought a little bit about this, I thought, there's definitely something to this, because honestly, I feel like what they put together this season was quite triggering for a lot of us. I think a lot of us had relationships that maybe remind us of these clips that we see of Dayna upsetting Magan. And when I dug a little bit deeper, I felt like there was actually a really interesting and more nuanced conversation to be had about this, which has to do with recognizing signs of abuse and the effect that our general education or experience with abusive relationships can have on the way that we perceive other people's relationships. And I also really want to talk about that thing that Vanessa talked about after the series aired.
I got called out and you're not here for the right reasons. And I said, what reasons could I be here for? I mean, I literally tried to ask this question. No one was able to answer it. I would say, what did I go on the show for? I was in a 4-year relationship. My partner wanted to be married. I didn't. I think for Lexi, it was way easier to blame the stranger than to blame the partner she loves. You have to fully prepare your world to be publicly displayed, a little bit chopped up, and then like thrown back in your face, because it's not something that goes away. You have to reconcile with your own actions and words forever. Yeah. Like you can't just be like, oh, I said that, but only she heard that. Like it's forever.
That thing where she's still getting hate and people still believe that she's a really awful person who some people believe she didn't even deserve to be on the show. But she's talked a lot about the way that image was presented. And I honestly think we have every reason to believe that that was just a constructed image, because, and this is something that we don't want to think about, but reality TV isn't real.
These metal cups, oh my God, they serve a purpose. They're not here because they look nice. They're used in the show so they can cut the conversations and stick them together in whatever order they want. Let's just remember that when we see these cups.
So before we get into it, I'll introduce myself quickly. You might be thinking, what the hell is this person doing talking about a modern reality TV show? They are obviously a weird medieval anachronism from, the 13 to 1500s. And yeah, I have to agree with you. But if I was real, I would say that I met my partner on Tinder. 10 years ago almost. And we said I love you after 3 weeks. And we are actually getting married now. So I do feel that I am somewhat qualified to speak on a situation in which people are falling in love in the span of 3 weeks and thinking about marriage, because that is the gay way. So the first thing that I want to talk about in this video is the dubious ethics of my video that I'm making right now. This was difficult to make. I will admit that when I started making this video, I didn't quite have as nuanced of an opinion as I do now. And when I started collecting footage for this video, I was quite upset. And then a good amount of time collecting clips from this show, I started to wonder if this was what the people editing the actual show or the producers felt like, because it didn't feel good. Looking at all of this footage of real people and thinking so much about this narrative that I was responding to made me feel like I had started to analyze these people as though they were characters in a text. And I want to bring you with me on that journey. So what I am going to do is I am going to analyze the show as though it's a text in their characters instead of real people, because I think that's genuine to how we've experienced the show. And then after that, I'm going to unpack what I have learned and a little bit of research I've done that has to do with what I was talking about before in terms of abusive relationships and how we see them. A sincere sorry to any of the participants of this show who I'm about to talk about, because I am for a moment going to talk about you guys like you're not real people, but I swear to you, I'm coming back around to analyzing that and critiquing that experience. And I just want to say a huge thank you to every person, particularly the queer people on this show, who were brave enough to do reality TV so that I could lose sleep watching this absolute exploitative train wreck over the last week. Oh my God, have I enjoyed it. And I'm going to jump now right in where Reddit is. Where we're looking at these people and we're going to engage with this series the way that it is intended to be engaged with, because it's very convincing and very compelling. The first thing I've done is I have created a bit of a compilation of some Dayna moments that I think really hones in on the outrage that we all felt when watching this initially. And I want you guys to know it's okay. It's okay. We're at the circus now. So let's get into why we're all mad.
Magan, she's my whole existence and like being. But I can't live without Mel either. So I don't really know what to do. And I know it sounds so selfish. You formed a whole relationship, like love for someone. I'm scared I don't have the capacity to like move on from that. I have very strong feelings for Mel. What's also making it hard is that you're not even like, I fucked up, I made a mistake. You're still saying you would do everything all over again. I'm like, why the fuck would I get over it? Apart, I don't do that shit.
How could you do this to me? You're treating me like I'm nothing.
I need you to get on a flight right now and come down here. Right now.
You had an emotional connection with Mel too.
But it was not sexual like you. It's just different.
When you and I left off, it was, no matter what, Mel, we're gonna still be friends after this. And those were your words.
Okay, but you have to remember, like, Mel, there's the tattoos. Like, also, on top of the tattoos, Magan said that we had a conversation months before coming here that if we made it out of here together, we get a matching tattoo.
Okay, so well, you didn't tell me that.
I didn't remember it. Megan, we've talked about getting matching tattoos, so she's not gonna be happy at all, but I don't care. Now that I'm more clear on like the boundary I wanna have with her, like
Friends can support each other.
but
like,
right
is it too
now,
early? Yeah.
the relationship isn't appropriate. We can deal with our shit when we have the time, because we may not even end up with these people. I want you to be you right now. You're treating me right now how you treat them. Don't talk to me like that.
I'm telling you how I feel.
Well, you don't have any patience.
Okay, so we're mad, right? It was upsetting, it was annoying, it was humorous. Now I want to introduce a topic that I've seen in many a Reddit comment. DARVO stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim, and Offender. Yeah, DARVO, it's an acronym. If you think about these things and you think about some of the footage that we just saw, and I'm going to go through a little bit more and I'm going to put some annotations on it for you, I think we can see exactly what everyone was so upset about. And I actually read one really interesting academic article about this. I'm not about to go into a huge amount of depth on all of this because I have other highly researched videos coming up. So it's supposed to be a little fun thing I did on the side. It's a really interesting paper.
The article is called Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender, DARVO. What is the influence on perceived perpetrator and victim credibility? By Sarah Harsey and Jennifer J. Freed.
One of the things that I really wanted to talk about was the way that our perceptions of DARVO are actually part of the way that we interact with that and the way that we perceive victims as well. So I'm going to read a little bit from the paper here. DARVO, Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim and Offender Roles, describes how perpetrators of interpersonal violence deflect blame and responsibility when confronted for their abusive behavior. When used, a perpetrator denies or minimizes the harms of any wrongdoing, attacks the victim's credibility, and reverses victim and offender roles such that the perpetrator assumes a victimized position and declares the victim to be the true perpetrator.
No wonder you fucking hate me. You've been trying to hate me so you feel better about your fucking self. Because you did exactly what you thought I was gonna do, but you did it. I thought I was the bad guy.
Now, I am putting some footage in here as I explain this, because I think that this is a big part of why we were so upset and why we were so convinced that Dayna is a reprehensible human being who has done to Magan something so unholy and unfair. And I'm not saying that isn't true. I am saying I have no idea if it's true or not, because I honestly, all this footage is edited to look a certain way and we really don't have the full picture. But what I am saying is, I think a lot of us, me included, recognize this behavior from relationships we've been in, right? And that's really upsetting. And I think that by and large, the queer community has come a really long way in understanding this kind of abuse and coercive control. And it's great that we understand that because it happens in straight and queer relationships. And it's a really good thing that we can support not only ourselves, but the people in our community with us by understanding the way that, coercive control and abusive relationships function. But I do think that in this case, that's exactly what the producers of this show were counting on, because they knew that presenting Dayna in this way would make her unequivocally villainized. And I think they tried to do a very similar thing with Vanessa in the last season as well.
Who the fuck does this bitch Haley think she is? Slimy bitch. Were they spying on us? They hacked the cameras? Where do they think that they found?
How can you talk to me like this? What did I do? Megan, please just tell me. How could you say that? I don't even know who I'm talking to right now. How could you do this to me? You're treating me like I'm nothing. Who are you? Because you're not the person that I came here with. I thought I was gonna marry you. I've never been to you. Like, you're so bullshit to even say that. You're treating me like I'm nothing. I'm so disappointed in you too. I still love you.
With Magan, I don't feel always comfortable or safe saying what I want to say or being who I am. I feel judged. I struggle to communicate with Magan.
See, I don't believe that though.
I am telling you, I've known this girl my whole life. I did not recognize this person. I literally was like, is this Magan? I misread you, and I'm a little confused on what your intentions are. Why is Magan, fueled by anger?
From what Megan's been hearing, you've been taking the experience very seriously, and the fact that you guys haven't been speaking, I think that neither of you were assuming good intent from the other.
I'm sad that she's just going in an opposite direction.
I don't think it's fair to say that she's reverting. She's done so much work.
She is resenting me and hating me.
Is that your own brain playing tricks on you?
No, I talked to her and that she confirmed everything I said. She was like, go home, have a safe flight. I'm sorry, Haley, but what has she learned? Because she's actually digressed, in my opinion.
She's making a ton of growth. It just might not be the growth that you're expecting.
So don't even start with me. You're acting like I'm being crazy or something.
Because sometimes you do, because Dayna.
You would have made me call Mel, tell her to get off my Instagram, blocked her. You know damn well that you would have lost your mind. I'm handling this so well.
So I'll explain a little bit more. The perpetrator, in order to avoid facing consequences, therefore tries to mollify the potential backlash when held accountable for their actions, casting doubt onto the credibility of the victim and denying the victim's versions of events or reframing them so that they appear more innocuous. This closely mirrors the denial and personal attacks described by DARVO. And I think that we saw that really clearly in a lot of the footage of Dayna, especially after they recoupled, particularly in some of the phrasing that Dayna uses to talk about how her experience with Mel was different than Magan's experience with Haley.
I guess, like, I just wonder if, like, I didn't have those encounters with you, if I would have had what I had with Haley, like, sexually.
That's what bothers me, is that I think that's exactly true. The Magan I know would have never done what you did. You didn't have to go, like, invest in someone else. You didn't have to go have sexual relationships with someone else. It was a test and you failed.
But, like, you were still sexual with Mel too, you know, and you had an emotional connection with Mel too.
But it was not sexual like you. It's just different.
And I think that that really struck a chord with a lot of us and made us feel really fucking angry, particularly because we have access to footage, right? Like, we feel like, as the audience, like, you have the secrets of the universe because you've seen the other scenes that they've allowed to be put into this show. And I think that the reactions that we all had to that were really valid. As I said, it's very compelling footage. And I think it was chosen particularly to strike that chord in people who have had abusive and difficult experiences in relationships. The thing I want to talk about with this paper, which really interests me, is that they said they were investigating the extent to which educating individuals about this perpetrator tactic can minimize its hypothesized influence. If we collectively didn't know about DARVO as a concept, if we collectively weren't able to recognize what was abusive and had less understanding about abusive relationships, then the data from this paper suggests that we would side with the perpetrator, actually. We would side with the person who was committing the DARVO, who was defending themselves, right? And I think that that's so interesting because the producers definitely knew that on the whole we would, whether it's because we're generally progressive or because most of us are women and women are victimized at a higher rate than men. I'm not sure, but it really interests me that they were able to correctly predict that we wouldn't take the side of the person using these DARVO tactics and that we would instead double down on absolutely hating them. And that's perfect for a producer of reality TV because hate and anger is really like the perfect emotion to farm and harvest. That's what gets people watching and that's what gets people talking, right? That's what I'm doing right now. And they did actually find in this study that having some knowledge about this tactic produced more pro-victim assessments. It does say here that DARVO educated participants perceived the victim as less abusive and more believable and rated the perpetrator as less believable. When we look at all of this footage and we think about the way that we are thinking about Dayna and about Magan, I think it's very clear that all of us relate to Dayna. And I think it's very clear that we all villainize Dayna. And I'm not saying that we are not culpable for that, but I think every single aspect of this show has been designed to elicit an emotional response from us that was very effective. You know, reality TV is by nature extremely manipulative. And that's why, as a viewer, it's really important that we think about what we're actually consuming. It feels like we're watching a TV show because it is a TV show, but it particularly feels like we're watching a TV show that's been, you know, written and created with its own storyline, because we are. But the people we're talking about are actual people. They're not the characters on a TV show. When they leave the set of the Ultimatum, they still go by the same name on the show because they're the same person. The character does not cease to exist when that person leaves the set. Actually, they continue to exist more authentically than they were when they were on the show. And I think that that's a really important thing that sometimes it's easy for us to miss. Just adding a little voice note here to say that my partner just made a really good point, which is that we actually excuse behavior like Dayna's all the time in our lives. Like, there's a general understanding in the real world that people are complex and that someone who does a shitty thing or maybe several shitty things might not necessarily be a reprehensible person who can never be forgiven. But when we see these things immortalized in video clips that we can play back to ourselves again and again, suddenly that forgiveness and understanding just goes out the window and we all want to look at this as a completely two-dimensional situation. The last thing I want to talk about before I move on is Magan's transformation. I think this is a big part of the way that the clips were edited because it gives us this feeling that we can see the damage that Dayna's having on Magan, right? We see Magan outside of her relationship with Dayna, as learning to stand up for herself, as having the wool pulled out from over her eyes, as reaching a deeper understanding of why she wasn't happy in the first place. She describes a lot of these things.
I was unsure, so they were unsure. Now I don't feel unsure. I feel confident.
If the person that I thought was gonna marry can't come up to me and just treat me the way that I deserve, then I don't want it. With Haley, she just always makes me feel protected and cared for. It's just so different. It's what I want for my life. Honestly, being in this environment with so many queer people, that's like not even talked about. It's not worth putting myself in a community where I always feel like I'm hiding or living two separate lives. Once you're like starving for something for so long and then you feel like you're kind of getting a glimpse of it, you just want to protect that.
Do you guys feel like at the end of this, there's potential between you two?
Honestly, it does make me feel like there could be potential there.
Guaranteed, I can never have Magan out of my life.
Same. I want you to understand what the difference is because it's important. When I feel like I need help, I will ask for help. You know what? But here's the thing though, just because I know it doesn't mean that I'm gonna enable it.
It's just like a glimpse of something that I always wanted. Me too. Realize how important it is to, you know, make decisions for yourself because, like, you can actually have the things that you want. It's possible. Like, this is proof. It's heartbreaking. It's like one of the first times in my life to feel understood. I've never experienced this type of life with somebody. I'm a brand new person from it, and I feel like my life is just getting started. Something incredible has happened. You know, it's very scary.
That's a key part of convincing us that Dayna is the worst person to have ever existed, controlling and coercive. And again, I can't say for sure that she's not. I can't. But what I can say for sure is that all of these clips have been edited to make us think that she is, right? And a key part of what is so upsetting about Magan's transformation was the way that she seemed to turn around using Dayna's words and reject Haley after they had made such, honestly, a heartwarming bond and had a really nice experience together.
You treated me the exact same way that you said Dayna was treating you during the first trial marriage.
And I think it hurt a lot of us to see that because it hurt Haley a lot. And I particularly think that a lot of us look at that in the context of the coercive control that we've been in and that we understand, and we see an element of that coercive control.
I mean, Magan knows she got manipulated.
Even in Haley's words, this doesn't seem like the Magan she knew. It seems like Dayna's words coming out of Magan's mouth. And that's an experience that I think a lot of us have had in difficult relationships and abusive relationships. And I think that that goes a really long way in creating this storyline. Again, I don't think it's invalid for people to be upset about that. It upset me to see it, for sure. Part of that upset, though, is obviously relating it to experiences that I've had. I want to sort of slide into my next section here, which is that this is what they wanted us to see. And another reminder of the dubious ethics of reality TV, because we really have to actually take both Magan and Dayna for their word on this. I think it's really important that we remember that at the reunion, which is a year after this happened, Dayna talks about seeing her behavior on the screen. She talks about how upset she is at the things that she saw.
So it's sad that now they're gonna have to deal with the opposite of that, which is like repercussions of my behavior.
It'll be okay.
I'll nominate myself for like, has a lot of work to do. I think like watching myself back was painful, and I thought I was a very self-aware person and realized how unself-aware I was. Actually, I'm thankful for the point of reference to like, okay, here's what I see and like, here's what I can now do. You don't ever get to experience looking at yourself like that, so.
And she describes this as a kind of self-awareness. And if this were a character in a TV show who had exhibited all the same things that I've seen in these clips, I would say, well, that's impossible. People like this never change. She's just trying to clear up her image publicly, right? But she's not a character in a TV show. She's a real person, actually. And I think we owe it to her and we owe it to Magan to take her at her word and to allow these people their own lives and to grow and show self-awareness. One thing that I also forgot to mention, both Dayna and Magan's comment sections on whatever platforms are filled with people telling them exactly how they see their relationship. It's also not helpful because it's not fair. You don't know what that relationship is actually like. Let's not be prescribing things to people when we don't even know them in real life. Also, just selfishly, I want to say that, yeah, I am sorry, Magan. And I'm sorry, Dayna, because Dayna's my type, guys. So I can really see where she's coming from. Okay, I'll say it here and I'll say it again. I am a hot, mean girl apologist. All right, let's be honest about our own proclivities. Dayna, you were one of my number ones from that first episode, and I can't lie about that. Obviously, some hurtful stuff happened on the show. I wanted to sort of finish with a couple of questions, really. This is really just about thinking about why we responded en masse the way that we did, to look at the way that our emotions have been manipulated by the producers and the editors of this show. Kind of neither here nor there. I mean, that's really every reality show is going to manipulate you in that way. That's the point. That's also why we enjoy it. I'm not saying it's neutral necessarily. It's probably good and bad at the same time. But the questions that I ask myself after really thinking about this and some of that research I read about DARVO is like, how much of this show is real? To what extent has this story been fabricated? How much of our emotions are our own analysis? And to what extent have our emotions been preordained by the producers of this show? They seem to really know exactly how we were going to respond, and emotionally, we did respond. I want to remind everyone that a key element of reality TV is the creation of a villain. I mentioned her earlier, but the season 1 villain was Vanessa Papa, and she's spoken out about this.
You live through this experience and you live 100% of it for yourself. And then what shows up on TV is 8 hours worth of 2 months of filming. So the show came out and it was just like, I would say clearly edited to paint me in a bad light. And then everyone was like, oh, this is who this girl is. And it's so not who I am. But I think now, as time has passed and people can see me on social media and people meet me in person, they're like, okay, you're totally not what you were painted as. So that's been good. And I think life's kind of like leveled out again.
The final thing that I wanted to say is really, at the end of season 1, there were allegations of real abuse, real violence, and it was really uncomfortable to watch that first reunion, and it was really upsetting as well.
You know, it's really hard for me to say it, you know, I was arrested. I threw a picture frame and I broke it and the glass shattered everywhere. And I threw a peg gate at you and it was really heavy. At the same time, I was grabbing all of your clothes from the closet.
But we don't have those allegations here. And I think some of us are even more sure after the second season that there's an abuser on the show than we were at the end of the first one, when I think a lot of us were quite blindsided by what had been going on behind the scenes. And I just wanted to emphasize that I don't think it's our place to speculate without also having a conversation about the way that reality TV is designed to manipulate our feelings and farm our outrage, right? Like, that's exactly what they wanted, was for us to get upset. And I think that we can get upset, but I think we need to remember as well what we bring to the show and how the show was created. So I really just, again, I want to thank every contestant and participant who's ever been on any of these shows. And I also want to apologize again to Magan and Dayna. I know you're real people, and you were really brave to go on that show along with everyone else on this season. I just really enjoyed it, and I think that the people on this season were such a pleasure to watch for, and I'm so grateful that they were brave enough to do that. Yeah, thanks for watching. This is my first video, but I do have videos coming up about Joe Goldberg and the show You. I will also be talking about Skull Panda and Pop Mart, and anything else that I feel like talking about. So if you enjoyed my bizarre costume and the way that I approach analysis and discussion, then please stick around, and I'll have some more soon. Thank you so much.